Afternoon, intuitives. Thanks for all the positive feedback on my last INFJ video that, like I said, came from a comment request some weeks ago that I never got around to. Some of you have said how it came right at the right time. I'm sorry to hear that because that means you're struggling with something. If you're heading dark, usually means nothing's going right, and no matter what you do, you can't seem to change it. It's like almost as if the whole world is against you and you have no one you can trust. So you must retreat inward into your mind and put your intuition on overload, and you might feel backed into a corner and start throwing truth bombs like I'm going down, but you're all going to be at each other's throats because you won't have me to vilify, kind of thing. Yeah, an event from 15 years ago has been haunting me lately. No regrets, though. I did what I could. Anyway, I kind of have a follow up to that in the same vein as, INFJs going to the dark side. There's going to be some overlap of the content, but I want to talk about why sometimes INFJs can go through times of being essentially misanthropic, even though we are, at least most of us, are empaths. You know, what can lead us to that? And I'm going to explain that. I'm going to give some personal experiences and when I went through that phase back in 2006 when my life was completely smashed to pieces and set me on the path I still walk to this day. So, why can an INFJ go misanthropic? Well, given our nature as empaths and intuitives, we are very often, the ones people turn to for advice because we're able to read situations. We're able to put the pieces of the puzzle together, form a picture, form a conclusion, and let's be honest, 85% of the time, we're usually right, but sometimes people don't want us to be right and don't want to face what's really happening, and that can cause problems. But you want the truth. The truth is the truth. The truth doesn't care if the truth isn't popular. The truth doesn't care, who the people involved are and their social status and all that crap. So that can lead to some issues. That can, almost vilify an INFJ who was simply doing what the INFJ was asked to do. It's like, you asked for my opinion. A friend of mine once, back in '05, asked me if I thought his girlfriend was cheating on him, and she had a propensity for that. I said yes. He got upset and he didn't believe me. And he thought, I was trying to stir the pot. But at the end of the day, I was right. And he took me along with him to break up with her and retrieve her stuff. I mean, it was obvious. She was always, our group of friends at the times, we were all 18 years old, all hung out in this guy's basement and stuff on weekends and spend the night, play poker, drink, bonfires, kind of stuff you do when you're 18. Um, yeah, she'd always have to leave early every time on Fridays and Saturdays from her boyfriend's house. Suspicious, no? And it wasn't for work. Like, it wasn't for work, and we all knew that. So that's what really made it suspicious. And plus, Kyle, was my friend's name, was a very, very straight edge guy, like straight up, like not exaggeration, like Eagle Scout. Yeah, Eagle Scout, right? Like never did a drug in his life, that kind of guy. And this girl had, a bit of a reputation that she wanted to overcome. And Kyle decided to let the past be in the past, completely understandably so. The past can be the past as long as the person who's willing to move on from the past actually wants to move on and, not repeat the same patterns. Why do I go into all this context? Because it's important to note that, when somebody has a past that they want to escape, they must really want to escape that past and must be willing to actually do things differently and not continue to, do things in the same pattern, expect a different result, and then expect sympathy for doing the same thing over and over again that they said they were done with and didn't want to be known for, but yet they continue it. That makes sense. Might be hard to follow, but it makes sense. So that was the situation here. He asked my opinion. I told him. He got pissed, and a couple weeks later, the truth came out. You know, yeah. For a couple weeks, I was the villain. Didn't care. I knew it would only be a matter of time before I would be proven right. That's just one example of what can make an INFJ like feel misanthropic, where it's like, wait a minute, like you're leaning on me, you're asking me for advice. I'm usually, if not almost always, right. I told you, I backed up what I was saying. Yet I'm the bad guy simply because what I said isn't what you want to hear. And then I was proven right. All was forgiven. Although he did stab me in the back about a year later, but that's not relevant today. So, well, maybe we'll get to that. So, that's one example. But the biggest example of what leads an INFJ to become misanthropic, this is kind of a prelude to it, is when it feels like everybody around you is using you when it's convenient for you. And the second you're no longer convenient or useful or socially acceptable, you're cast aside without any empathy, without any remorse, without any concern for your well-being. That can lead an INFJ to, well, not first of all hermit mode, but to be a misanthrope and basically not want to help people anymore, and get into that trust no one, everybody lies kind of thing. Everybody lies is important because when I was in this stage, it was the mid 2000s and the show House was very popular, and I very much related and respected the character of Dr. Gregory House because a lot of his one-liners that he was saying at the time was stuff I was saying when people tried to call me out or, give me some sort of fake cordial, platitude-y concern when it's like, you don't give a fuck. You just want me to fall in line and act like everybody else and act like everything's okay when it's not, and I'm not going to do that. So, to give you the context of it, '06, I know I've gone over this a lot, but I don't think I've gone over it all in the same video. I'll just do the bullet points. '06 is when I destroyed my modeling career by fighting / attacking a photographer who sexually assaulted a good friend of mine. At the same time, I was planning to not sign the renewal for my contract anyway because I was accepted into the fire academy down in Arlington the first time, and that was what I wanted. I was happy as can be to head down there. That offer, which I had a final offer, and I still have that signed paper somewhere, was rescinded without cause. 3 weeks before the academy started. I had already had an apartment. I hadn't moved in yet, all that. So, my whole world fell apart because it's like, ooh, I'm getting out of Chester County. I'm going to have my dream job. I got some money saved up, especially for a 19-year-old giving my modeling. And I was in a long distance relationship with a girl that I was head over heels in love with, who then started cheating on me with a professional ice hockey player, a well-known one at the time too. So everything went to hell within a span of a couple of weeks, back when I thought I was gonna just on the precipice of having everything I ever wanted, because everything I ever wanted is to live in a progressive area that isn't cliquey and high schooly and good old boy Arlington, to have a job that provides a decent salary while giving me a sense of purpose and making the world a better place, firefighter, and to have unconditional love, which at the time I believed I had. So all that taken away in an instant. I'd been working towards becoming a professional firefighter for 2 years at the time. I was, working as an EMT, became an EMT at 17, was taking college classes at night for fire science, in which I was on the president's list, and you got to have at least I had like a 3.7 GPA. So, I was in the gym 6 days a week, modeling, in shape. Like, man, I was kicking ass. Oh, and I was starting to take certifications to become a massage therapist, because that was going to be my side job, because firefighters typically work 2 24-hour shifts a week and most have a side job. And I figured that way I can help people. And massage therapists, sometimes they get paid under the table. I figured I'd do pretty well at it because look how pretty I am. But alas, all that went to hell, and I was even going to transfer within 6 months after graduating the academy to where the girl I was in love with lived, because she didn't want to leave where she was. But 6 months I was in the academy, she was working on her accountant certification, so we figured everything would be fine. It all went to hell in an instant. I lost everything, like everything, and it not due to, well, I guess you could say I lost the modeling job because of my own actions. I'll say in my death rattle that I did the right thing. I did the right thing, and I really didn't care about that, because that chapter more or less was going to be closed anyway, because I would have been in the academy and thus unable to, abscond to New York whenever, I was at the beck and call of that industry. So, what led me to be misanthropic, you say? Well, you would think after going through all that, you know, because of the machinations of others, not my own actions, that people around me who claim to care would have genuine empathy and concern, genuine empathy for what I was going through, and certainly concern for my mental health. They did not. Why, you say? Well, because everything I was doing was not, status quo. Just Chester County, even my own family. It's like you firefighters here are volunteer and you don't leave the area, and you're supposed to like be in college in a frat, like banging promiscuous sorority girls, which didn't know I was a demisexual at the time, but didn't change things. I was still a demisexual even when I was that young and a model. I didn't act any differently than I do today in that regard. And certainly dating a Canadian girl who was 5 years older than me, that's not status quo. So all of it was, and long distance relationship, although we did see each other quite a bit because her cousin and I, she met this other hockey player through her hockey player cousin, who him and I became friends, and I helped him through a rough time, and we called all the time, and he would fly me out there to see her, and I had modeling money. So it's not like, we never saw each other. We did. We met it out there in different places. It was very, very adult considering we were 18 and 23. Anyway, it all went to hell. Nobody cared. Closest people around me, who most if not all had used me as a crutch at one point or another to help them through what I would consider a much less worse situation. Like I would help someone through a breakup, for example, and they would act like it's the end of the world. It's like, well, I lost where I was going to live. I lost my dream job. I lost my relationship all at once, all at once. So I didn't know what to do, where to go, who to trust. And like I said, I was upset. I was understandably pushing people away, but even those that I would open up to would just give play, everything happens for a reason, it all works out, and why don't you do whatever, go get a business degree, dude, bro, bro, all these girls want to hook up with you. Yeah, they want to hook up. Yeah, there's no connection there. There's no, they're just shadows with no substance. Yeah. Oh, bro, man, you throw away more than I could get. Yeah, it's all coming back. So that's an example of a situation that can lead an INFJ to be a misanthrope. And to get to the meat of it, my personal experience aside, what it basically is that because we're always there for people, we're always the one figuring situations out, we have empathy, we genuinely feel other people's pain and do whatever we can to help them through it. When push comes to shove, and we're in that situation, one, we never use anybody as a crutch, or I should say almost never. I don't think I have. No. But basically what really gets the misanthrope to come out is that when people that we've helped who claim to be our friends, do nothing for us and have no empathy for us when we're in a situation similar to theirs, or one that's far worse, because it's not about them. They don't care. It's not affecting them. And also, if you're in a, stuck in a quote of status quo, if what is destroying you is unstatus quo-y, well, then it's just stupid anyway. You're not supposed to be doing it. It doesn't matter how you felt. That's what really gets it. Can send an INFJ to a misanthrope is that we can understand why other people are in pain, but when they're like, well, I wouldn't do that, I don't see it as a big deal, so I don't know why it's important to you. It's stupid, and you should just fall in line like people say, because you're not supposed to think for yourself. People are supposed to think for you. What? Yeah, so that can be like, oh, okay, can't trust any of you. You're all robots. You're all sheep. Retreat back into my hole and try to NITI loop my way out of this. Maybe if I run it through my mind 1,000 times, 1,000 first times, I'll kick it and it'll fall into place. I did do that not too long ago. I thought my way through an NITI loop and it all fell into place. Although the picture did fall into place and it was correct, the picture that was formed, did essentially to send me into madness, because while it was true, it still made no sense. I never did make sense of it. But, you know, that's what gets us, is that when people that we've helped in their rough times, uh, not only not help us, but show no empathy for our pain or no concern for what we're going through, and basically just tell us to suck it up and deal with it, as if we're just some tool to be used when they're down to build them back up. Like we only exist to be their crutch, to be their human lie detector, to, you know, make them understand what they can't understand. But we're not supposed to have feelings, emotions, purpose of our own. We just exist to be used, and that is narcissistic. And we're, you know, when we're not being used and not going along with the status quo, we're to, you know, fall in lockstep behind whatever the self-proclaimed leaders of that status quo, whatever their whim at the time is, and they make up the rules as they go. You know, it's like, wait a minute, like, you know, there were times where it's like, wait a minute, you were, you know, you idiots were telling me like I should talk to this girl. We did. We started to get close. And then you changed your minds. Yeah. Yeah, there's some memories from years ago too. It's like, you just told me to do this. Ah, we changed our mind. We want her with this other person now. It's like, I don't think you get to decide that. Yes, we do. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's Chester County. So, you know, you can descend into feeling like a misanthrope. You know, and worse yet, it can get worse. And worse is like when you're on the brink and you're glowering and you feel like shit and you can't even hide it anymore, because we can usually can. When, you know, when you're in that state, and not only like the people that you've helped who said they would be there for you aren't helping you, they actively stab you in the back, like that covert behind back shit. You know, yeah. Been there. 06, 07. Oh, the memories. The memories. So that can basically put us in a situation where we feel like we can't trust anybody, like nobody cares, like we must be extremely careful to who we open up to, because anything that we tell someone is just going to be used against us. We're just being used as a pawn, you know, that is supposed to be completely subservient to whoever the self-proclaimed kings and queens are in this situation. And this kind of stuff scars us for life. You know, it's stuff we don't forget. INFJs, you know, while we make mistakes and have regrets that haunt us, we usually don't repeat the same mistakes again, because we notice the pattern, put the picture together, and when that picture is starting to form again, comes back. And, you know, we won't go down that road, no matter who's telling us what to do. Not very good at being told what to do, especially if it's like not, you know, within the person's power. Like, it's one thing if, you know, you're a firefighter and you lieutenant's like, go grab the 2.5, you know, the deuce and a half line and get in there. Okay. It's, you know, different when somebody's like, I don't want you talking to this person. It's like, the fuck's it to you? Because I said so. It's like, fuck you, you know, that kind of thing. And, you know, the difference between like actual authority and self-proclaimed authority, for those of you that were still, you know, not understanding. So, misanthropic stage is hard to get out of usually, and I highly suggest this, that you extricate yourself from that environment and, you know, get beyond the reach of those that were just using you as a tool, who claimed to care, and start over somewhere new, where nobody knows who your family is, where nobody cares, where it doesn't matter who you dated in high school, or what clique you were in, or how many fights you got into, or how many people you hooked up with, because all that shit's bullshit, and I don't understand why everybody here is so obsessed with it. And I know I keep harping on that because I still can't make any sense of it, and, you know, it's a, it's a curse. It's a curse. So I'm sure, sadly, that many of you INFJs have been through a misanthropic stage where you feel like the whole world doesn't understand you, where nobody gives a shit about what you're going through, especially, you know, worst off the people that you've helped. And you almost get to the point where it feels like your pain, your suffering, your heartache, none of it matters, simply because it's happening to you, and because you don't matter and you exist to be used. Anything that you're going through doesn't matter. And the point is, what they want is to try to break you until you fall in lockstep behind their status quo. But as I said before, we'll never bend the knee. We'll either vanish like that, or they'll have to burn us to the ground. And depending on the situation, it could go either way. So it's something, this is, usually with younger INFJs, you go through this stage at least once. Like I said, I was 19, 20. Yeah, well, it started when I was 19. It lasted until I was 20. Until it happened. Something you got to be aware of. I don't know if it's some things you can prevent from happening. It might all depend on your circle of friends and where you live and your situation at the time. It might be something unique to this area. I hope it is, but I don't think it is. I think, like most things that I say about this area, that it exists elsewhere, but this area just takes it to a more extreme level for some reason. But I hope this video helped. Beware who's using you. Beware the people that you open up to. Try to get a read to see who really cares. Try to get a read on who really cares but is influenced by people who don't like you. That could be a factor too. Um, always, when someone's trying to get close to you, one of the first questions in your mind should be, what's their end game? What's their end game? And are they honest? And are they being open and truthful about themselves? Usually, if somebody is opening up to you very quickly and they're also like telling you the negative stuff from their past, and they're open and upfront about it, and they want to see how you'll react to it, see if it'll send you running like hell, that's usually someone you can trust. It's usually someone showing you how authentic they are. But not always. As always, there's exceptions to everything. A rebel's not always a rebel. Hey, even a narcissist isn't always a narcissist. But always see the whole picture. Always see the whole picture. And if it's like a group setting and everything is a group think and revolves around functions in the group, try to figure out the role that group is trying to assign to you. And if you don't want it, and they're not treating you as an equal in whatever group you may or may not be in, or you're trying to get in, they're not going to treat you as an equal. Run like hell. It's better to be alone than be a pawn. Remember, trust your intuition. If you think you're being used and the people who claim to care about you are just using you for when you are and your skills are convenient for them. And don't sell out your integrity to false friends. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.